Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're tearing up the headlines to reveal the hidden reality of the world's most critical and honestly probably its most misunderstood energy route, the Strait of Hormuz. Now, when most people hear that name, they immediately picture heavy geopolitics, massive oil tankers, and global tension, right? But we're diving deep into the source material today to uncover a world that completely defies all of those expectations. We're talking about a place where nature and human ingenuity survive in conditions that, frankly, shouldn't even be possible.
Okay, let's dive into this. To truly understand this place, you first have to wrap your head around the brutal expectation of the environment itself. We are talking about a region where summer temperatures on land can skyrocket to a skin-melting 54 degrees Celsius. It's harsh, it's silent, and it's so desolate that at first glance, it literally looks like a piece of Mars was just dropped right onto Earth.
But right in the middle of this incredibly hostile environment sits the beating heart of global trade. Get this. A staggering 20% of all global crude oil passes through this tiny 39-kilometer gap between Iran, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates. It's the doorway through which the world's economy literally takes a breath. Controlling this space, well, that means holding the reins to global energy. But if we only look at the oil tankers, we're missing the absolute most incredible part of the story.
Section 1. The Resilient Underwater World.
Beneath the waves, things get even crazier. The water temperatures here actually hit an astonishing 45 degrees Celsius in the summer. For marine life, an environment with water this hot shouldn't just be uncomfortable, it should absolutely be a death sentence.
I mean, normally at these extreme temperatures, coral reefs undergo what's called bleaching. They lose all their color, they starve, and within just a few days, they die. But the corals of Hormuz? They completely defy the established rules of biology. Over thousands of years, these corals haven't just survived, they've evolved and adapted to become the most heat-resistant coral system in the entire world. They're the incredibly sturdy foundation of an ecosystem that just absolutely refuses to quit.
And this brilliantly illustrates what that heat-resistant foundation supports: an incredibly vibrant ecosystem. You have over 700 species of fish that serve as the economic lifeline for generations of coastal fishers. Deep down in the quiet waters, herds of dugongs, sea cows, are just thriving. And incredibly, right at this exact spot where the Persian Gulf meets the Arabian Sea, it's home to a permanent, non-migratory population of rare Arabian humpback whales who've made this blistering Gulf their forever home.
But, and here is the really fragile reality, there are fewer than 100 of these rare Arabian humpback whales left. When you contrast the massive, mechanical, noisy scale of the oil industry crisscrossing right above their heads with this tiny, fragile number of just 100 whales, it really hits you. You realize just how delicate and vulnerable this hidden underwater world truly is against the constant pressures of pollution and massive shipping traffic.
Section 2. Islands of Salt and Color.
So moving above water, Hormuz Island isn't just some barren pile of rocks. Millions of years of tectonic shifts and rising salt domes have actually pushed up these massive, vibrant mountains of color. You have yellow sulfur, white salt, purple minerals, and famously this deep red iron oxide. In fact, this red soil literally bleeds into the sea. It tints the coastal waters red and completely blurs the boundary between earth and ocean into this one continuous flowing canvas. It's stunning.
And just nearby, over on Keshem Island, nature performs another kind of miracle. In a 50 degrees Celsius, heavily salted environment where almost all other vegetation would just perish instantly, the Avicennia marina trees of the Hara forest are actually thriving. Spanning roughly 30 square miles, these mangroves literally filter out the intense salt through their roots and then expel it right out through their leaves. It creates this vital, massive sanctuary for new generations of fish and shrimp, which in turn sustains the local fishers.
Section 3. Ancient Survival Architecture.
Now, when looking at how the people of Laft Village on Keshem Island built their lives against this incredibly hostile climate, you'll spot these towering structures called bodgirs rising way up above the tightly packed coral and mud brick houses. Think about this. Long before electricity, air conditioning, or any modern technology, the people here created this architectural marvel. It's an ancient wind catcher designed to make living in 50-degree heat not just survivable, but genuinely comfortable.
Let's move to Beni and see how this builds, because this ingenious survival system works in 3 really elegant steps. First, the open top of the tower catches the cooler prevailing winds high above the ground. Second, it funnels that air straight downward into the house.
And third, this specialized airflow drops the interior temperature by a massive 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. It's pure brilliant wisdom born of experience. Oh, and this village also survives using exactly 366 ancient water wells. They carefully ration them so that each well is drawn from only once a year, making sure their groundwater never runs dry.
That deep experiential wisdom extends right out to the sea as well. For centuries, artisans on these islands have built these enormous wooden ships called lenge. And get this, there are absolutely no blueprints. None. Every curve, every single joint is crafted entirely by touch and the builder's inherited understanding of exactly how the wood is going to flex in a violent storm. Sadly, though, this ancient artisanal mastery is slowly dying out, mostly squeezed by the rise of modern maritime rules and massive steel ships.
Section 4. Isolated cultures and traditions. Now, if we look at one of the most remote communities in the whole region, Kumzar village in Oman, a place so isolated it is still to this day only accessible by boat, we find what is essentially a living linguistic museum. Because it sits right on this historic maritime highway, the local language, Kumzari, is this fascinating mix of Persian, Arabic, Portuguese, and Hindi. It's a vocabulary built word by word over centuries from passing sailors and merchants. What's even more fascinating, though, is their survival strategy. When the peak summer heat hits, the entire village completely migrates to cooler areas. They return only when the seasons change, a cycle they've maintained for generations.
Heading back over to Hormuz Island, you'll see women wearing brightly colored clothing that really pops against the barren landscape. And it's often paired with a really distinctive mask called the borga. Now, while it looks like a striking cultural symbol covering the nose and eyes, its origins are incredibly practical. The sun here is completely relentless. It attacks not just from above, but reflects blindingly right off the seawater. So the borga actually serves as a vital physical defense against this intense skin-damaging reflection.
Section 5. The ultimate geopolitical choke point.
Zooming back out to the macro level, we can never forget the sheer scale of what happens on the surface. 20 million. That's the number of barrels of oil, along with massive amounts of natural gas and petroleum products that flow right over those heat-resistant corals and humpback whales every single day. This represents hundreds of billions of dollars in trade, acting as the primary energy feed for Asia, Europe, and beyond.
But here is the terrifying physical vulnerability of that massive operation. At its absolute narrowest point, the shipping lanes of the strait are squeezed into a tiny gap, just 33 kilometers wide. Just think about that. This means massive, lumbering oil tankers are forced to navigate a highly contested space that falls directly inside the regional maritime borders of the surrounding countries.
So the crucial point is, a blockade here doesn't actually require a physical wall of ships. There is the physical threat, sure, where even a minor attack or a regional missile test in a 33-kilometer lane can completely halt traffic. But the much, much larger weapon is the psychological threat. Just the fear or uncertainty that a ship might not make it through safely causes immediate market panic. Insurance premiums absolutely soar, shipping costs double, and companies simply refuse to send their ships into the strait, effectively creating a massive blockade out of pure fear.
And that fear, it has a direct line right to your wallet. When regional tension slows shipping in Hormuz, global oil and natural gas prices immediately surge. That makes transport and manufacturing instantly more expensive. And the end result? The everyday living expenses, your fuel prices at the pump, your electricity bills at home, even if you live thousands of miles away, go up. The entire global supply chain is basically tethered to the stability of this 133-kilometer stretch of water. Which brings us to the ultimate question. We've seen today that this isn't just some political chessboard. It's a vibrant, delicate ecosystem of ancient human resilience, rainbow mountains, and heat-defying marine life. If geopolitical conflict does erupt and closes this choke point, stopping the global economy, who will be responsible for this incredible hidden world caught in the crossfire? It's definitely something to think about the next time you hear the Strait of Hormuz mentioned in the news. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the headlines.